Are you ready for the keynote? We've got a great speaker up here. Oh, yes. So let's welcome him.
Robert, come on stage.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. Good morning, everyone. Not trying to sound like Tim Cook, but good morning, everyone, and welcome from me as well. I can't see most of you, but as always, but I talked to lots of you yesterday in the evening already. So it's a pleasure to see you here, or not see you here, but feel that you're here. And as always, I'd like to give a special welcome to everyone who's for the first time at the NEOS conference. Who's here for the very first time? There are still quite some. So, yeah. So I want to tell you, you're not just a listener at a conference, but you're already becoming an active part of our community by being here, because you talk to each other and you spread the word, and you're actually using NEOS, and by that you're already contributing. So welcome again. I'm confident that you'll make some new friends by the end of the conference. Oh, by the way, hi. We're all friends. So I'd like to start this conference by looking a bit at where we stand and where we're going to, and by that give you some, as always, give you some food for thoughts to keep in mind during the next 2 days. And what I discovered yesterday while I was talking to some of you, I think most agree that we're again living in times of big changes, and somehow also times which are a bit scary, and also times with lots of opportunities. So technology is developing at a breathtaking speed, really. And at times it's really hard to guess where things are going and which skills are needed to stay in business. And so I'd like to say, let's address the elephant in the room. Yeah, you know what I'm going to talk about, I guess. Yes. PHP turned 30. You realize that? So, are we that old already? I vividly remember when I switched from Perl to PHP FI and then PHP 3 mostly. So who has been using PHP 3? Anyone? Oh yeah, we're really old. And PHP has gone a long way since then, and I think when I look at it, I'm so happy that there were times, where it wasn't clear how PHP would develop, but it took a really nice path in the end now. And so even after 30 years, I think it's a very good thing that NEOS is based on PHP. So 20 years ago, also, we had a Type 3 conference for the very first time here in Karlsruhe, the TyCon 3. That at the left is Carsten. Sorry, Carsten. And in the middle, we have Jürgen, of course, also organizing this conference with the others. And 2005 was also the year when I wrote the very first lines of what would become NEOS. So that's 20 years ago. Okay, I think you guessed it. The actual elephant in the room is also not me, but is AI. And so throughout the last year, I think the topic AI was really omnipresent, more than any years before. And therefore, I want to share a few thoughts of mine with you. And it's not going to be the kind of repetition of the rant I had 2 years ago in Berlin, but more something like, I'm using AI all the time. I'm trying out lots of things, and probably you do as well. And I see benefits everywhere. But I think we also need to talk about a few other aspects. And I would like to explain a few things about AI. So let's start with the metaverse. Why is that it doesn't really have to do with AI, but 9 years ago, Facebook bought Oculus for $2 billion because they thought that VR will be the next big thing. And so 4 years ago, Facebook even was renamed to Meta, and Mark Zuckerberg's biggest bet is, of course, the metaverse. So, as you all know, very soon every one of us will spend most of our daily lives with VR glasses, and it will revolutionize dating, so we don't even have to meet in person anymore. We can just, with a click of few buttons and logins and multi-factor logins, we'll meet our dates or avatars at beautiful beaches. And shopping also will be a whole new experience. So buying tomato sauce has never been as much fun as with the metaverse. I don't know if you know this demo here. That's an actual demo from Walmart, how they imagined shopping groceries in the metaverse, and I want to share it with you.
You see the tomato sauce on your left? Go ahead and grab that and then place it in your cart.
They mean it. You know, you have to, they mean it.
Great. Looks like you need a good wine pairing. Take a look to your right.
Out of coincidence, there's one bottle standing there.
Your age has already been pre-verified through your profile, so no need to wait for an ID check. Just place the item in your cart whenever you're ready.
And now some unnecessary change of departments. Yes.
I'm getting a notification from your connected smart fridge. It looks like you already have a full gallon of milk at home. Should we put this one back?
Yeah, find the milk. And of course you have to put it back because AI hasn't developed so far yet. So that's how I also imagine shopping for groceries. Yeah. Because it really combines the worst of both things, like spending a lot of time shopping and doing that in an awkward way. But of course, we're not going shopping like this. We will, of course, fly with air taxis, because in a few years, cities will be teeming with air taxis. And according to Volocopter, a flight will only cost twice as much per kilometer as an e-scooter. So, I mean, if I ask my kids who would walk to school if they can fly for just a few bucks. So this will be reality, of course. However, it's not like Zuck imagined it. So he imagined 4 years ago, and that's not long ago, that by 2030, I think, there will be 1 billion people actively using the metaverse. And currently, numbers are difficult to get, but what I looked up were something like 200,000 active users per week. And most of, I think like 97% of the worlds only have 50 people in there, probably mostly bots keeping the world alive or something. But what I want to show you with that is, I guess we can agree that that the metaverse is like big data, blockchain, and self-driving Teslas. It's a hype. And I wanted to talk about what a hype really is. So to later on find a way to determine, is AI a hype? Yeah. So a hype is, first of all, it's a story. It's a narrative. It's something which promises to completely change the world. And it's mostly a story being told by companies to support their product or their service, right? Remember that, because who has an interest in that hype? It's mostly an industry or a company who try to sell something. But very often, this hype is only loosely anchored in reality. So most often it's an a story like, oh, but it would be so nice if this could become reality. There are things, of course, which are not ending like a hype, like a 360-degree camera or paying with your phone. Probably was a hype for a short time, but it turned out to be very useful. So, and it didn't change the world. It was just something useful. That's not a hype. So sometimes parts of these hypes become reality, and a big part of these companies pushing hypes is this aspect of fear of missing out. So if they say, like, you don't have a Pebble watch, so you really have to have one. Everyone has a Pebble watch. Who had one? I think, yeah, one. Who knows what it is? It was before we all had smartwatches. And I think Bastian also had one. And apparently this worked out pretty well for many of these hypes. So this is the hype cycle, the famous hype cycle from Gartner. And just to explain how it works more or less, that's from 10 years ago. So it always starts at the left with some innovation trigger. Then you have this peak of inflated expectations. So 10 years ago, there was iBeacons and Bluetooth beacons on the very top. Yeah. And then after this peak, these hypes go through the trough of disillusionment. And it's not always said that these hypes survive this part, right? There's a bit of a chasm there. So, and then you see later on that there might be that slope of enlightenment, and then the hypes might reach the plateau of productivity. So that means it turned out to be actually useful, or some part of it turned out to be actually useful. So that's the hype cycle. And of course, AI companies say that AI will completely change the world. And I have to say, with everyone I spoke during the last couple of weeks when I prepared the keynote, also agreed on that. But it's very difficult to say where that comes from. Is that kind of your ideas you made up on your own, or because everyone thinks that it's like that? It's so difficult to grasp. And of course, I mean, folks like Sam Altman ramble about singularity is near and AGI is near. By that, like also when he said that they should regulate AI because it's so dangerous, by that he's also, of course, fueling the hype because they need much more money. And within 1 year, there were $360 billion invested in AI within 1 year. And that's the largest corporate investment cycle which ever happened in technology history. So, but if you compare that to the metaverse, for example, ChatGPT actually achieved 800 million weekly active users by June this year, for example. So that's quite some users. It's not said, of course, if they can make enough money with that in the long run. So that's why that hype is currently positioned in that trough of, what is it called? Disillusionment. So there are still quite some gaps between the promises and the reality, as you probably know. So I think we need to distinguish between different aspects of AI. You just can't say AI is an hype and it won't turn out to be useful, but there are so many different aspects in that. For example, it's not clear yet when or if at any time AGI will turn out to become true. And some also say like it will be 2 years from now or 10 years from now. And others say it's not even clear what it would mean or if we would notice that it happens. So this is the hype cycle from last year. And there Gartner places generative AI in the trough of illusionment. They should choose a different word. It's so difficult to pronounce for me. So that means it passed that peak of inflated expectations and is now going down that slope. But that positioning actually could be a positive thing, because it means that now there's coming the reproductive phase where actually people are sorting out, what do we do with this hype? How can we put that into practice? And so they project that generative AI will end up at that plateau of productivity in 2 to 5 years. So that's currently the estimation. And specific applications like edge AI or coding assistance might even reach that much earlier. So that's quite near in the future. So I would say, as a conclusion for now, AGI is still unknown, like that part of the hype, but some other parts are here to stay and will find its way to productivity. So, but question is, and I won't be able to answer that, will it change everything? So I compare that a bit with industrialization. Of course, there are so many different aspects, but back then, work changed a lot, and there were fears which actually didn't become reality, and other fears which did become reality. But for example, in the 90s, when robots were introduced, people were afraid that every work will be done by robots, but which didn't happen until now. However, even in the automotive industry, some companies even rolled back the usage of robots, like Toyota did, for example, because they needed to adjust their processes to the robots, which turned out to be much more complex than being useful in some areas. So it's always like, you can't say, yeah, it will be exactly like that, or it will be not, but there's always some difficult aspects in between. As we know, as developers, it depends, right? And I think that's also with AI. For example, Klarna, you know, that evil company trying to sell. No, they famously created a collaboration with OpenAI and completely switched their customer service to chatbots. And they rolled that back as well, not because they're so customer friendly, but because it didn't work out. So we'll have to see how that turns out. I experiment a lot with AI in combination with development. So for example, PHP Storm has Junie, and which can not answer questions, but you can also give it tasks like, in this case, I had a node type in Neos, and I said, like, you know, I need a new node type with a bit of different design, and I need a few more fields or less fields there, and so on. And I formulated that within one phrase, and it took a minute until PHP Storm actually created the Fusion file, the node type, the Tailwind styling, everything, and it basically worked out. But we have some other examples where it completely went off rails. So, however, I think for us, it's important to gain knowledge in that area. We should know the ins and outs of AI, so we can judge, for example, also which models to use for which task, right? So the point with AI is, and I think this will actually not change, that the more you are an expert, the better you can use AI, because you need to ask the right questions. You need to decide, where do you actually want to go to? So the AI won't tell you where to head your business, or you can ask it for a marketing plan or so. But currently, you use it as a tool, and for that, you need some expertise to judge the output, but also to ask the right questions. Now, the question is, if AI will replace all the easy jobs, and that seems to happen now in some areas where these jobs which you do the very first 3 years or so after graduating, for example, if that is replaced by AI, the question is, I mean, first of all, what to do with all these people if they are unemployed, but also how will they learn their profession? You can't skip that first part of your job. You need to gain some experience because we need experts a lot, especially when we have AI, because of course, we want to define the goals and not let AI define the goals and then we just do all the labor. Yeah, so I see all your happy faces when we're talking about AI now. Sorry about that. We'll come back to AI in a minute, but first let's talk about something much more positive. Let's talk about NEOS. So last year I stood on the stage expecting a NEOS 9 release by the end of the year. And to be honest, we took a little bit more time to sort out some last issues because you know that we in the community have quite some sense of quality, and we were not happy yet with how NEOS 9 was, so we could release it to you. And then, but 9 years after creating the first concept for the event-sourced content repository, the team finally released NEOS 9 in April 3rd, and I think this is really a big effort, and I'd like to say thanks a lot for the team who had such an endeavor to make that possible. So thanks a lot for that team. So NEOS 9 and the new content repository is our new masterpiece. So with that CR, we have potential technology head start of several years if we start to use it. So if we don't use it, there's only a theoretical advantage we have with that, of course. And as you probably have seen in the workshop already or figured out for yourself, there are so many nice capabilities, and working with the new event source CR is at the same time for you as developers, it's like a masterclass in modern PHP development. So keep that in mind. This code, which was produced there by that team, is brilliant, and I couldn't have done that. So yes, understanding these concepts like event sourcing and the new CR takes effort. It takes a bit of learning, but instead of learning some other CMS's quirks or memorizing API calls, so we are not asking you to do that. We are asking you that you try to level up your entire craft. You try to get into these new concepts because it will make you a better developer. I think it's really worth it. So more and more websites are built with NEOS 9, and including the NEOS conference website, by the way. And it's a great foundation for so many new challenging projects. And Sebastian and Tobias will tell you much more about that in their talk, which is after this keynote. So let's quickly look a bit on our product and community identity. So you know that innovation is part of our DNA. From the beginning, we attracted skilled developers who were mostly looking for a challenge. Because in the beginning, we had no content management system, but we needed developers. And then there assembled some group of people who were just in for that challenge to create something like that in a modern way. And this is still very much part of our DNA. So therefore, I said that it's 20 years ago that I started that, so it's not surprising that we not only have that the community is not only consisting exclusively of visionaries, but also of people who are using NEOS on their day-to-day business. So you know probably this technology adaptation life cycle. You have the innovators at the left, and then after the product matures, there will hopefully be early adopters, early majority, and so on. And that, of course, is also true for Neos, because at some point we were very new, there was nobody using Neos, and we actually crossed that chasm here from early adopters to early majority, because people were confident in using Neos and upgrading Neos. And so more and more profitable businesses rely on Neos. So still, we have these visionary people in our community who want something new, and we have those who are using Neos in projects. And they want to use it for powering their websites, but they will probably just jump from LTS version to LTS version. And that's completely fine. We always knew that we have these two groups in our community. And what we did was for every new innovation and drastic change, we carefully worked out a migration plan. So that those who were interested in the hot new things could try it out right away, and then we made sure that you could migrate very easily. For example, you remember from Fusion to AFX, so that was backwards compatible, of course, or we refactored the dependency injection 3 times and hardly anyone noticed. And we tried to make it easy to migrate so that you can actually jump from LTS to LTS. And we also take it very seriously that you can upgrade to Neos 9. So why am I telling you all this? Because for Neos, this is now a crucial moment. This is a crucial year for the project's future, because so much depends on the adoption of Neos 9. If everyone stays with Neos 8 and nobody upgrades, we will lose momentum at some point, of course. And it's also difficult to talk to each other when we have these different technologies. And therefore, I again would say get into Neos 9, because not only to help the Neos project, of course, but also to profit from what the team has been working on so long. Right, blue screen. So now that we worked so much in the machine room, it's time to also cater for the users of Neos. So for the next minor versions, the Neos team would like to concentrate on the editor experience much more. So again, yeah, that's our new editor experience. And of course, we might also at some point integrate AI. But why? And how? So I have some opinion on that. So for example, if you calculate the URI path segment of a page in Neos, you can do that with AI. I've seen people using Opus 4, not in research mode probably, but I mean, you can make that from a page title, calculate some URI path segment. But keep in mind that you're not only paying the costs to OpenAI or something, but there are a big amount of hidden costs as well. I won't go into environmental impact, but you know about that. So what I would like to ask you is, if you use AI or integrate something like that, try to find the best alternative. Maybe there's a string function in PHP which also does the job. Or maybe there's a much smaller model which can do that job. So it doesn't always have to be the big models from OpenAI or Anthropic or whatever. So try to be conscious about that. And in terms of functionality, I'm not really a fan of generating texts from scratch in AI. I think it's the same thing like you might not be a fan of creating a complete application from scratch with AI, because you know how it should look like. You're an expert in coding, but I can tell you experts in text don't like generated text either. So it's but what I could use it for is as a tool also in content management. So for example, imagine you are refactoring the content of your website. So let's say you need to compile a list of all articles on your website which mention a certain product because there's some new regulation and you need to change something related to that product. You could have something like a smart search and replace, where we say, okay, every time we mention this product, we also need to mention this aspect because by law now we are required to do so. You could tell Neos to do that. Neos will put it in a workspace and then you can review it. So that's some kind of use I would imagine, for example, for Neos. And yeah, how does Neos 9 fit into AI? So in fact, the content repository is the perfect application to connect with LLMs like ChatGPT or Claude. So I don't know if you're aware of MCP, the Model Context Protocol. So that's an open protocol that standardizes how application provides context to LLMs. So let's say if Claude wants to know something about content in your Neos website, it can use that protocol and then ask the content repository directly. So now guess who already created a demo for that, integrating the MCP with Neos 9? Bastian did, of course. So let's say you renamed your software from Neos to Phoenix. Yeah. Then you would open up Claude, for example, and this is an actual demo. So you see at the right side, you see the workspace management in Neos. And now Claude tries to find out all the content which mentions Neos, and you see there that it's actually running API calls on the new content repository and found all the places. And then it found 43 nodes, and now runs the node set properties API call to actually change everything. Then you can review that in your workspace, and you see, whoa, yeah, everything was changed there. And of course, you could also do things like, so it will summarize what it did. You could also do things like, yes, I wanted to rename that, but it would be nice if you could actually revert that so that URI path segments are not renamed, or something like that. Whatever you want to do with AI there. And yeah, by that you see basically something like that can be done very easily. So to wrap it up somehow, yes, we're living in moving times and sometimes scary times, but also there are so many opportunities we now have. And I think it's important that we get into what is changing the world at the moment, and also much more of that impact, which not only what's interesting technically, but also get into the topics, what does it mean for society, what does it mean for the environment, and so on. And because we share some certain values here, we can try to make good use of that and convince others to make good use of it. So, and as for Neos, I think the Neos team created a great foundation for future projects now. And of course, I won't deny there might be some rough edges here and there. But I would like to invite you to become part of Neos' future by investing time into learning the new concepts, by reporting things you find, and we'll try to help you creating pull requests and everything. So remember that you're not a customer, not a Neos customer, but you're an active part of the Neos community. So I would like also to invite you to collect ideas out there in the hallway, in the wall of ideas, okay? So, and if you like to know what Neos 9 can mean concretely for your business, Tobias and Sebastian will tell you all about it, which means that for me it remains to say welcome again It's so great seeing you all here, and I wish you an inspiring conference this year, the NEOS Conference 2025. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Robert.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. What a reasonable and measured approach to AI.
Oh, yeah.
Refreshing.